This is going to be about potentially millions of people losing their jobs. It's going to be about millions of people losing their savings, many of people losing their retirement security, and at the same time taking on even higher costs for everything they buy. So that's going to push us in potentially to foreclosures or people being pushed out of their apartments. Recessions can be all those fancy charts and graphs, but at the end of the day, people feel them one person at a time, and they can be devastating.
Several months later.
The first read of second quarter GDP coming in at 3%. Consumer spending coming in higher by 1.4%. But again, this is higher than expectations. Again, GDP, this is the first read of the second quarter coming in at 3%. That is better than expected, 2.4%. I want to bring in Adam Johnson. Markets are certainly watching this, right?
Yeah, Goldilocks, because I would add to that, Cheryl, that the GDP price index was only 2%, and the expectation was 2.2. In other words, we have an economy growing at, what do you say, 3%. We have inflation at 2%. That's the best of both worlds. So I'm very positive on that report, at least in the moment.
Nick,
the left and people that don't like the president and don't want things to work. And, you know, like Senator Elizabeth Warren will come on and say, inflation's out of control and the economy is getting killed by what's happening by these tariffs. This 3% with the market at new highs, and really we haven't seen inflation, you know, go up back to 3%. Maybe it will this week. Maybe we'll see it. But none of these things, none of these horrible things have happened, but they still talk like it's happening. It's amazing.
Well, there's an important lesson there. Don't pick a congressman to be your money manager. That's what I would say. But in the end, Congress has their own reasons to point out certain things. And the Democrats, of course, as you pointed out, really don't want to see the current administration have some success.
Well, I would just like to go back. I'd like to build a DeLorean and go back to April when everybody here was predicting likely to cause a recession. Investment stops and a recession happens. They're not talking about a U.S. recession. They're talking about a global recession.
What was happening in April,
Lead to
Scott?
recession. Eventually, there being a reception.
Very cleverly.
If he's chosen to pick
I
my
just
words,
want to point
just
out,
a second,
you
sir.
called it. You called the recession. You called it. You took your shoe off.
And Joe, would you like to see that again?
You took your shoe off. You brought cookies
The
out here.
15% shoe.
You took your shoe off and you said there was going to be a recession.
Listen, Scott,
GDP is 3%.
Too early to give a final verdict.
All right, Scott,
It's too
what
early. Just a second, Abby. He's basically calling me out here. It's too early to give a final verdict on the tariffs. You may wish to, but at the moment, it can't be said what the long-term effect is going
Richard,
to be.
I am just a journalist, and all I can
Scott.
do is read the economic data.
It's a bit of a stretch.
3%
Scott,
GDP,
Scott
trade
Jennings.
deals, record high in the stock
come
market,
on, these trade
cooling
deals-
inflation.
these trade deals
Hold on
are
a second.
garbage.
It's actually much simpler.
Garbage?
Yes.
Hold on a second. It's much simpler than this. Just one sec, because I think it's super important to understand. Scott, what was happening in April of this year, 2025? What was happening then? What did the president announce on that week, the first week of April? What did he announce?
I just saw from the intro. I love Scott Jennings. He called like that dude. You saw the intro. I'm gonna put up maybe a still shot of this guy. This guy is a smug guy. This guy, he's everything wrong with the left. Condescending elitist. He think he know everything. Oh, it's too early to call if these things will be successful. Couldn't Scott Jennings make this the opposite argument as well? Isn't it too early to say that inflation will be caused by tariffs? Tariffs will increase inflation. Liberals are desperate for this inflation narrative to be true, and they want us to have patience with their predictions when for 5 straight months they've been wrong. Oh my God, the Trump recession. Remember that in April? That's why I lit in with the Elizabeth Warren clip. Also, people who actually follow the markets, money managers, and understand politicians will find any point of the data that seems weak and use that as, this is going to be a trend. You're going to see a trend. Oh, look, there's a decrease in imports. This is not going to work out well, right? They'll latch on to any negative data point they can use to perpetuate a narrative. And when Trump proves them wrong, these people are nowhere to be found. These people do not want to acknowledge accountability that they were wrong. They were wrong about the timeline in which the recession was going to happen. And this is and this is funny. This is funny. And all the media and the Democrats can do is essentially smear Trump. That's it. That's all they got. But what are they offering? What is their alternatives? If this is going to cause inflation, what won't cause inflation? You notice I never give an alternative. All they got is criticisms and doubt. And I think this is what's making more and more Americans turn away from the Democratic Party.
Yeah, hi. I was promised a recession. Yeah, I was promised by summer of 2025, which is this year, and it's summer, that the world would just be a disaster and we would all be broke and eggs would be $30 and gas would be unobtainable. And none of that shit is happening. Oh, it's because you guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Oh, right. Yep, you heard it here first. Actually, you heard this stuff back in April when tariffs and things were being implemented and that conversation was happening, and you guys were running around frantic, pulling out your stocks, screaming, recession! And now all of you dipshits are coming on TV like Bill Maher and saying, well, I may have made a mistake. So let's do a recap. Donald Trump isn't connected to the Epstein files. Tariffs didn't destroy our economy. Iran and Israel didn't start a World War III. Gas is below $3 a gallon. I paid $4 for eggs the other day. The Dems' approval rating is at 19% and can go lower. It can go lower. I'm going to go with everything is fucking wonderful for 500, Alex.
The bottom line is that there's great news today because we had a blockbuster GDP report that really blew through expectations, gave us 3% growth, which, by the way, we delivered in President Trump's first term as well, but 3% income growth and inflation only at 2.1%. This is how supply-side economics works, that if you have a big increase in supply, then you get lots of growth and you don't get inflation. Now, the problem with the Fed when we were there in the first term was that they kept thinking that the Trump tax cuts were going to cause inflation and were hiking rates, so they were wrong about that. And I think that right now, if you look at central banks around the world, they have an eye on where inflation is around the world that's quite different from the Fed's. And the Fed still, as Chairman Powell kept saying today, is obsessed on the idea that tariffs are going to cause inflation, but they've been saying that really since January, and it keeps not happening. And in today's GDP release, as you mentioned, only 2.1% inflation. And again, the inflation numbers, the consumer price index, have surprised on the downside in the sense of been good numbers, low inflation numbers, 5 months in a row. And so at some point, the idea that the tariffs are going to cause an explosion in inflation is something that people are going to have to give up. And if an independent Federal Reserve is data-driven and looking at the data, that our expectation is that they're going to recognize what the ECB has already recognized, that it's okay, it's safe now to cut rates.
So pretty much, Jerome Powell does not believe in the economy, even though data is showing that it's growing faster than inflation, right? And all these trade deals, all these global investments that Donald Trump is securing, President Trump has secured over $5 trillion in trade deals and foreign investments back into the U.S. in just 6 months. The debt that the big, beautiful bill added will be wiped out in no time. Why is nobody talking about this? Because they don't want to give him credit. You saw from the clip, everyone and their mama, all these frantic liberals was predicting a Trump recession in April. Since January, Jerome Powell's been waiting for inflation to increase. And it gets to a point where you have to start questioning Jerome Powell's motives. And for the first time in a while, two board members of the Fed dissented, right? A very rare move. 2 members of the Board of Governors dissented today. Not one, but 2 members of the Fed's powerful Board of Governors voted in favor of a rate cut. So it's coming. So it's trending in the right direction for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is eventually going to get a rate cut, but it's delayed yet again because at the time of me making this video, Jerome Powell announced that he's going to maintain the interest rates currently because he still fear a recession. Not a recession, sorry. He still feared that tariff will cause inflation. And this wait and see approach, you see it constantly in the intro. Also, you saw it when Scott Jennings called out that lib or that leftist, European, on his failed prediction about a Trump recession in the summer. And he has this expectation that, we can't make any determinations yet. But you're making a determination that something will happen, though. But you're mad that someone has the opposite opinion of an determination and make it make sense. You have an opinion that tariffs will be bad for the economy. It will cause inflation. And right now you've been proven wrong for 6 straight months. And when Scott Jennings takes the opposite approach, no, we're trending in the right direction. Look at this. Look at all these data facts. Look at all this evidence. All the lib got on the panel was his feelings, his opinion. And it seems like this is what Jerome Powell is being called out for, is that many people wants transparency about his transcript because many people believe that Jerome Powell is not making data-based decisions. Instead, he's going more based off feel. And we all know feel can be biased, right? And with all this going on, it's surprising to me that you still got smug liberals, right, who still expect us to believe them. I don't know how you believe a liberal right now. And this is why Democrats are getting such a hit with their popularity when it comes to all these predictions, because Americans are seeing it for what it is. Democrats are just being political. Democrats are powered by anti-Trumpism. And this is why their favorability is at the floor, because everyone in America realized that Democrats, all they have to them is Trump hatred. And many people, rightly so, I will add, many Americans in this country feel like we cannot put Democrats in power because they'll launch retribution against us for voting Trump in the first place. You know how vindictive these Democrats are. I felt like the COVID lockdown was punishment for electing Trump. And there was this pressure, and this is one of the reasons why I think Joe Biden ended up winning the 2020. There was this perception that everything will go back to normal if a Democrat win. That was the expectation, because all these liberal states will comply with Biden, but they will do everything they can to resist Trump. And people said, no, we have enough. We ain't going to put you in power at all. We ain't going to have you have influence with us at all. And Democrats are proving that case to be true. Why should we give you influence and power when you're wishing for our country's downfall so you can spite Trump? Democrats hate America more than they love it. They hate Donald Trump more than they love it. And that's the deal. That is the reality. That's the reality. No Democrat can excuse it. No Democrats can make excuses for it. Because what Trump is doing, it's giving opportunities for the very class of people that Democrats claim that they love and cherish, the working class, right? Tell me how Democrats can spin this as a bad.
He's actually implementing an industrial policy, but he's making other countries and private industry pay for it rather than the American taxpayer. I don't know that this has ever been attempted before in human history. Usually when you have industrial policy, you end up either like in a Soviet system or like communist China, where basically the whole country is paying to employ, a working class. There's no free enterprise. People are poor. There's no real upward mobility. There's no freedom. There's no rights. And what Trump is saying is like, no, we can harness private industry. We can harness American ingenuity and say, it's your job. You want the benefits of this market, of this consumer. You prove to me that you have the best interests of the American worker at heart. It's like
and this is the type of praise that Trump is getting from certain leftists, right? Like Batia claims to be a MAGA leftist, right? Because she believes that, hey, Trump's goal is to pretty much benefit America across the whole, across class, across race, right? Across ideologies. Whether or not they want to participate in the economy, that's one thing. That's their personal choice. But I believe that America wins when we all win. Because at the end of the day, as humans, we're interconnected with each other. We are dependent on each other. The working class is depending on the rich is depending on the working class. It's an interdependent relationship. If you hurt one, you kind of hurt the other in some way. Right. And this is something that I think socialists don't understand. And this is why they have this very naive view of the world. They think they can tax the rich and there'll be no negative repercussions on the working class. Right. And just like, in certain situations, right, Democrats are doing right now, right, going against tax on tips and then making all these assumptions about, oh, look, there's limits on tax on tips. Yeah, but you're the same people that will get mad when corporations use and abuse tax codes and loopholes. But you want to create, but You want to ding Trump on the fact that he's trying to prevent loopholes by capping tax on tips, so companies don't use it as a legal way to get around the tax system. Democrats will complain about anything. Make it make sense. And this is the reality. We have a biased news media. I mean, maybe this is why I keep putting out videos about them, to highlight the bias. Look at the bias. Look at the bias. Liberal bias has corrupted a lot of these so-called experts. These experts said, oh, recession, oh, this, oh, that, oh, inflation. And Trump keeps beating expectations. They expected higher inflation. Trump came in with lower inflation. They expected lower jobs creation. Trump made more job creations, even though he's cutting jobs from the Fed, from the federal government. He's investing in the private sector. And we have one of the biggest markets in the world. Trump's using that as leverage for his trade deals. Hey, you want access to our pharmaceutical market? You want access to this? You got to pay into this. Because for too long, we have allowed you to tax our private businesses. And this is one thing I kind of debate people, especially the libertarians who want free market. But I'm like, how can you have a free market when one country is tariffing you and you're not tariffing them? Is that a fair deal? And I believe capitalism is built on fair deals. If you're going to tax me for trying to sell products in your market, you should expect reciprocation. And that's not been happening for the past decade, because our presidents before have allowed these countries to have these lopsided trade deals because we're using that to help rebuild Europe. Now that I'm looking at Europe, people are saying that Europe is better than America and all this stuff. I think that idea of foreign policy is over with. There should be no longer disproportional trade deals if people are making arguments that Europe is better than America. I think we helped them rebuild long enough, and now it's time to treat them like an equal. And this is what's happening with Donald Trump and these trade deals with the EU. And the fact that Democrats are trying to spin this as a bad thing shows you how much they just don't like Donald Trump and how much their ethos is not about helping America. This is why in my videos, I constantly saying this phraseology that Democrats offer Americans nothing but emotional platitudes, emotional hate. If you hate Donald Trump, you're a Democrat. That's who they cater to. People who just hate Donald Trump, they don't like seeing Donald Trump successful. That's who the Democratic Party markets to. But what about the independents, such as myself? I want results. I want outcomes. Donald Trump is delivering a result and outcome. Hey, my ideal situation, this is Trump's ethos. My ideal situation is tariffs will be able to fund the entire government and I can give tax breaks to all Americans. That sounds like a good deal. I'll take it. I don't care if the rich gets more benefit from it than me. The rich technically pays more taxes than me. So, hey, whatever. If you disproportionately pay taxes, if a tax cut would disproportionately benefit you, it makes sense. It makes sense. But Democrats don't care about fair deals. They care about this. They have this zero-sum game mentality that they got going on in their brains, even though majority of their party is represented by the rich. I mean, sorry, the rich is aligned with their party at a majority. Look at the people in Hollywood. Most of them are Democrats. Look at the billionaires. Most of them are aligned with Democrats. George Soros, Bill Gates, right? Jeff Bezos. Maybe he keeps a center, but he looks like a liberal to me. So, go to Seattle. Come on. These tech bros. They're the more centrist wing of the billionaires. But there's a lot of billionaires that align themselves with the Democratic Party. How do you think the Democratic Party rose $1.2 billion in 3 months? But Democrats want to sit here and say that they're the party of the working class when they're actively supporting mass migrations into a country where, if you ask any common sense individual, mass migration hurts the working class more than it hurts the upper class. Everyone knows this. But Democrats pretending that somehow that's not an issue. And then Democrats are surprised why majority of people making under $100K a year, majority of them voted for the Republican Party. And then these same leftists online who probably come from a middle or upper class background, don't have any understanding of what it means to grow up in the working class, will sit here and preach to you about how the working class is voting against their own interests. What? This is the same thing Democrats always do, and I'll end off on this video here. Democrats never want to take accountability for anything. They never want to take accountability when they're wrong, when they just don't understand something. Hey, we don't understand what the working class want. Let's reach out and try to understand them. No, instead they project or they try to prescribe something without truly listening to what people are saying. And this is where I get this idea that Democrats are dismissive, Democrats are condescending, Democrats are high-minded, they think they know what's best for you. And Republicans go, oh, you like this, here's how we can kind of help you with this. This is our solution to your problem. And Democrats go, no, 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 no. This is the solution to your problem. Yeah, but I don't see, no. Don't worry about working class. Illegals actually help you. How? They work for cheap and under the table, and they suppress wages, and they create more competition in my market. No. Don't worry about that. Illegals should be in this country. And the working class was like, nah, you actively doing things against my best interest. How is it having all this open trade? I'm getting tariffed to death. I should move my businesses overseas. Democrats were fine with that. And that took jobs away from what? The working class. But Democrats will sit here and lie in your face and say, oh, yeah, we're for the working class. Maybe that's your intentions, Democrat, if I took you at face value. Maybe that is your intentions, Democrat. Maybe you are in your own way, you're trying to help the working class. But the working class don't like the results that have been produced by your intentions. And I think that's the reality Democrats are having a hard time coming to grips with. But let me know your thoughts and perspectives in the comment section. I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Please share this video if you're so inclined. It really does help me out in the algorithm. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.